I know. Two Coke Lyoko videos in a week. But considering we're at the end of season one, it's time to wrap things up about season one. Season one's a weird one. And I've said that a lot of times during this whole season run. There are a lot of weird episodes and weird decisions. Sissy's inconsistent storytelling, the constant horror movie references the somewhat mundane Lyoko battles with interesting real world plots, and sometimes the complete opposite. The show is inconsistent. A lot of TV shows on their first season viewing is just trying to find their footing and find what this concept is. Code Lyoko is not one of those shows, ironically. It knows exactly what its concept is, what it's trying to do. But as you can see through the first 26 episodes, there isn't really any greater plan in place. The episodic, non-serialized structure shows this, and for better or worse, and sometimes at really worse, girl, girl of the dreams, and even useless episodes like the robots and yes, even near the back end, with episodes like Rock Bottom with useless one-offs that never come back. Season 1 is full of just oddities all the way around it. There is no getting around it. Plus, the CGI is rough at times. Really rough. Like playing a video game at 12 frames a second sometimes. Rough. But seeing that thanks to a podcast without danger, these CGI scenes were done practically with actual actors rather than full blown computer effects. The movements are somewhat more lifelike. Although you could tell the 3D models were in their rough cut of ideas. Mouths didn't move, eyes barely blinked, and the limited rigging didn't show off what Ryoko would eventually become. A tour de force of watch our cool new CGI do cool stuff. You'll see that a lot in the season ahead. And pretty much immediately. And even the amount of monsters on screen and what would show up on screen to represent the genocide was extremely limited. It was the voice acting, writing, and the power of show of our main group that helped the season through. And the season through line of the materialization kept people somewhat hooked. But it was missing a magical sauce that next level dealings. And it was only around the final 5 episodes that we started to see the show that would be and the incredible season that would be start taking shape. Especially Brown Coat Earth and False Start. Could tell they were going through changes and Bible switching and trying to figure out what was going on. Even the fact that the final 2 episodes have this finale, but not quite. We're holding off on something bigger. Something that, oddly enough, Thomas Rodin would take that approach straight into Miraculous Ladybug, for better or worse. Yes, the main brainchild behind that love triangle square hexagon thing was one of the lead writers on this show. And some of the techniques that he would use from Lyoko, he would use to even worse effect here. Thankfully, there was a writing staff back then that actually knew how to rein him in and keep him focused, because Ladybug is all over the place. But that's a different show and a different topic. But it's, oddly enough, that Code Lyoko Season 2, not Season 1, is where the show finds its footing. Yes, Lily Orchard, I know your take on serialized television is always bad, but there are good examples of it. Code Lyoko is one of the best examples that ditching the episodic Monster of the Week style format actually worked in the show's strength. Seeing that the best parts of season 1 of Code Lyoko is when it's talking about, oddly enough, its through line. It's really when the episodes ditch the season effort of getting Aelita to Earth that the show seems wandering and domestic, like it doesn't know what it wants to do. There are only 10 episodes to this effect, but the 10 episodes that focus on the actual episodic structure actually are the strongest episodes of the entire series. Sans Teddy Godzilla, of course. The first season is hit or miss. It's a 7 out of 10 or a 3 out of 6 by our scale season. But when it hits really strongly, it hits strongly. The points that would turn this show into a semi-mega hit and practically drive the entire Maguzi block can be shown in the final 6 episodes of the season as a whole. Season 1 of Code Lyoko, at times for me, rewatching it for the first time in its totality in years, was interesting at times and rough at times. But ultimately, what kept me going through the entire 26 show run to this point was not only the ambition and the length of the project that the Aelita Diaries was turned into, but the fact that eventually I would get through the crappy first 26 with some hits, and finally get back to the season that I remember the entire show for. A lot of people remember the show for its strength in season 4, and trust me, when we get there, you'll see a lot of reasons why that is. But my picture of Code Lyoko as a show is largely defined by the season 2 episodes that we are about to get into, especially those first 5. I don't know how many times I've watched A Great Day or Expiration or New Order for that instance. There are some episodes that are still burned into my brain from season 2 that we're going to get into. Season 2 is that strong and that phonetic of a change. Sometimes the episodic nature of shows absolutely work. Shows like Teen Titans Go and even to some extent Steven Universe It works not having a through line or a direction and just winging it. But other shows like Code Lyoko need that structure. It needs that anchor to keep it in place. Some of the things that Code Lyoko decide to keep in place, like they of the Oric and Yumi relationship, doesn't quite work out. And they try to add a twist to keep it interesting, but we'll get to that. And let me give you a sneak preview of my opinion on that. It doesn't actually work out. There are early some missed opportunities, and the missed opportunities will continue coming. But despite the missed opportunities, Season 1 of Code Lyoko is a great starting point, a great foundation to an even greater idea. Again, when Code Lyoko, even in its episodic, we're just doing Power Rangers but Matrix format, actually works. It works out really well. But the main conclusion that I've come to is that when it decides to actually have a point for all of it, that's when Code Lyoko is its strongest. Meaning, the shift to a more serialized, everything matters format is probably the greatest change that Code Lyoko could make in terms of format. But there would be another change that would redefine the entire series. Not only give it structure, reason, but emotional resonance. And throughout the next season, as we turn the page from season 1 to season 2, you'll see this story play out. There's a reason I called the series the Aelita Diaries. It's mainly because of this season plot that begins this upcoming week with the episode New Order. Change was coming for the series, and it would take a year and a half for us to get here. But when the year and a half was over and the Maguzi teases of New Lyoko stopped, and it was time for the show to reemerge, the show would not only reemerge, it would redefine itself with one of the finest reintroductions of a show that I have ever seen. Not since Power Rangers Zeo and Friendship is Magic after it would I ever see a reintroduction to a world perfectly executed, setting up its newfound nature of a show, setting its groundings, and beginning one of the greatest, in my view, the second greatest season 2 of animated television ever done. And I can't wait to start talking about it. Talk about it next week. Welcome to season 2, everyone. It's gonna be a crazy ride.